So we're talking about the evolution of manufacturing. Everybody knows what craft production is, right? You get a guy down the road who makes acoustic guitar for you. That would be craft production. And then we had the first factory design, which is a job shop, which is a collection of machines. So we send our material to a certain department just in tons, JIT, that's my little joke. And then they machine it, pick it up just in tons, move it to the next department, machine it again with another group of equipment. Because all that equipment's identical. So they take it there for efficiency. But the result is massive, massive amounts of inventory to be able to manage that. And this is a Dr. Black slide here, right? Is that familiar? So what we had was they would use the power of the river and cut this water slice off of the river to run a wheel that would turn a pipe or like a crankshaft. And then there are belts off of that wheel, and so everything was lined up in a row to run all these machines off that belt. And so the job shop kind of was born out of that capability, having the power of the river to run these machines. The problem is, once that was no longer required, no one really ever thought to question the layout of the shop. So we still have companies that operate this way, lots of companies. Teledyne Continental Motors operates this way. They build aircraft engines. And this is the very thing that Taiichi Ohno completely changed and revolutionized. And it was really the foundation of how they began a lean system. So second factory design, mass production, Henry Ford, 1910, building Model Ts. Third factory design, roughly 1970, Toyota production system. So the point about these slides is lean is the third generation of manufacturing. So if you're industrial engineers, you certainly would like to understand the cutting edge of manufacturing. You would absolutely have to understand what lean is, or you're missing out. You're stuck in the past, and you just don't know it. So luckily for you, you decided to take this as an elective. So Ford Motor Company, the key to success was interchangeable parts, metal cutting tools, non-warping pre-hard metal. Before they had that, they had to have custom fitters filing parts so that they fit, which meant you pretty well had to build these cars like a craft operation. But once you had pre-hardened metal and you had machines that could cut it, you could use exacting standards to develop all your parts to where they'd fit precisely, and you'd eliminate a lot of the handwork that was done by skilled fitters. Moving conveyors that would bring the car to the employee with simply a chain that moved it through the line, and you're staying in your position, and you're building the car as it comes to you, and it's paced by the chain. Specialized in balanced labor. Obviously what that means is you've got 2,000 people doing uniquely different jobs rather than groups of people building the entire car, and you've broken that labor down into its smallest element, 60 seconds of work, let's say. What's the amount of work that you do in a Lego lab when you do it? 60 seconds. So they took that Model T and they balanced the labor and specialized it down to 60-second cycles, approximately 50, 70, and moved it through on a chain so the chain's moving at 60 seconds pace through each workstation. In vertical integration, glass foundry, fabric, power, Henry Ford specified how wood crates were constructed, which raw material came from suppliers who used the wood crates to make charcoal, Kingsford charcoal. Anybody heard of Kingsford charcoal? Well, that's vertical integration, when you decide to construct it out of crates and use the wood from the crates to make a product out of. And I think we purchased rubber plantations in South America, was bringing the ore from northern Michigan, probably from Upper Peninsula. Yes. Oh, by the way, when you speak, the little mic in front of you speaks so our audience out there can hear. Go ahead, Dr. Black.
Henry also had the wood crates pre-drilled and used the wood from the raw materials and nuts and bolts suppliers to go in this floorboards for the car.
So just about every aspect of the car was produced by Ford. By 1914, the Model T had been so streamlined it only took 93 minutes to run through the entire process. Now that's how long it took to run through the process, one car. But if you're standing at the end of the line, you're likely, whatever, I don't know what the rate was, 1 a minute. Stand at the end of the line every minute a car comes off. Just like our Lego lab. Difference being there's 15 of you rather than 5,000 of you or whatever it may be. In 1915, Highland Park workers spoke more than 50 languages. Many couldn't speak English. So the question is, how with a lack of common language could they produce a Model T? Probably because they were a cog in the wheel. They were a piece of the equipment. They didn't need to think, they didn't need to speak, they didn't need to solve problems, they just need to act as a tool. So language wasn't important. If you go around the Detroit metro area, there's little communities all over Metro Detroit. The Italian section, the Arabic section of Dearborn, Mexican town, all these little communities all throughout Metro Detroit from all the immigrants that came over to the Ford facility. It's probably, I think at its height they were employing 100,000 people. The Model T was a great commercial success. By the 10 millionth unit, 9 to 10 cars in the world were Fords. Employment at the Rouge facility employed 100,000 at its height. The early price for the Model T was $850. By 1920, the price had fallen to $300, or $3,300 in 2005 numbers. So that's pretty good, $3,300 for a car in 2005. Pretty efficient. Weaknesses, limited goals, acceptable defect rate, maximum inventory levels, narrow range of standardized product. So at the time, you wouldn't necessarily see that as weakness because your competitors weren't challenging those things. End-of-line repair, a large number of offline repairmen to address issues which occur in process. Employees had no authority to stop the line to rework, repair, or more importantly, solve problems. There's something a little bit wrong with this. If you did give the employees the right to stop the line and fix the problem, you'd still have a lot of end-of-line repairs because they wouldn't see the problem. Or you're generating the problem to begin with, right? So you shouldn't be producing defects, and you should be able to see them. Two other problems that Jidoka addresses, which we'll talk about later. So they had a large number of their employees fixing the cars after they were built. Low employee morale. Employees were as interchangeable as the parts they installed. They had no value beyond the specialized work. Weaknesses. Dedicated machines that could produce only one part, designed for efficiency of a single process and to minimize changeover. So we're optimizing the piece of equipment. Run as fast as you can, produce as many parts as you possibly can, be as efficient as possible, but not flexible. Low variety of product. Changeover was too expensive. You've all heard this quote. The customer can have any color they choose as long as it's black. No flexibility. That's what made them so highly efficient, actually. Build the same thing as fast as possible. And this was a John Dodge. You've heard of Dodge, right? Chrysler Dodge. John Dodge quote. Just think of all the Ford owners who will one day want a car. Then this was a pretty big deal for the working class. $5 per day wage led to reduced turnover, which was termed golden handcuffs, meaning I'm almost imprisoned to this Ford facility. The work's miserable. I hate it. I hate my life, but I can't go home and tell my family that I'm going to quit because I can't find those wages anywhere else. So I am stuck in a life of misery. Employees could no longer endure the monotony of hours knowing their self-imposed permanent status, and this eventually led to unionism. Alfred Sloan with GM perfected this mass production system by offering variety, 5 models from cheap to expensive that fully accommodate a buyer of every income throughout their lives. So you get your first car, you may get a Chevrolet, but I might buy a Cadillac. I actually have a Cadillac. So through the course of someone's life, there are different models, different levels of consumer, and GM produced all that variety, which really created problems for Ford. Decentralization. Divisions were financially managed, a response to Ford's complete centralized control. Henry Ford was considered pretty obsessive compulsive about controlling every aspect of the business. And he didn't trust people, and he didn't allow his organizations to operate on their own. Alfred Sloan set that system up, which really allowed them to grow and expand. They also divided professional labor between finance, engineering, and manufacturing. In the Ford system, there wasn't the specialization of professional labor. It was whoever found their way to the right place to help the company. And then standardization of component parts across all divisions, allowing a variety of maintaining efficiency. They had hang-on features like transmissions and air conditioning systems that would work in all their vehicles, which made it pretty efficient to be able to manage and build the variety of vehicles and still have quite a bit of standardization. So I think the point here is you can kind of get a sense of why the UAW came about. Because people were trying to say, look, we want some rights, we want some recognition, we want some control, we don't want to injure ourselves and be thrown out. It was really a bad work environment. And so it kind of prompted unionism. By the way, Toyota had unionism as well. Just a different philosophical approach to management. All right, so work assignment restrictions made absenteeism that much more difficult. Move the metal, ship quality versus customer quality. Ship quantity, did I have that? Ship it quality versus customer quality. Got to get it out the door. Mass production systems were rife with waste, holding back knowledge and effort. A tactic, now this is one in the book that I disagree with, personally. A tactic, holding back knowledge and effort, a tactic repeatedly noted by industrial sociologists as a feature of mass production systems would lead to disaster in Taiichi Ohno's factory. I don't think they held back knowledge. I think no one wanted to ask them their opinion, so that you just don't offer it when no one is asking it. I think people genuinely want to try to solve problems, but they don't when it's not available to them. Key weaknesses remain. No improvement of the labor issue. Systems are full of hidden waste. Opportunity for Toyota. Small island country. How was Toyota about this time? I mean, how was Japan, roughly 1940s? Yeah. Their 2 main manufacturing centers were in ashes, literally. 2 atomic bombs, right? Think about that. That's Japan. Small island country, dwarfed in size relative to Ford, limited in resource. Toyota had produced only 2,685 autos in 13 years. After the war, compared to Ford Rouge plant, 7,000 per day. And you can see why. You saw the film. You understand how incredible the Ford system was. So Toyota was positioned to exploit the inherent weakness of mass production, and they nearly put the arsenal of democracy out of business. Does that even make sense? Would you ever, without that occurring, think there's any possibility whatsoever for Toyota to do that, to nearly put Detroit out of business? After you see what Detroit was, you get a sense of how incredible that is. So how is this possible? It's like a magician's trick. I mean, how is that even possible? How can you make the semi-tractor trailer disappear on stage? It's almost that incredible, right? Toyota production system, third generation of manufacturing. That's how. Now, do you think, as students here of industrial engineering, it's important for you to understand what this third generation of manufacturing is? You are lucky that you have chosen this class as an elective. It would be sad for you to graduate and go out in the world and not know this.